Hello and welcome to Zenith Workouts. I'm Rebecca Libby. Today we're filming a series of classes where our goal is to be able to control our low back movement while we move our hips and legs or our arms or work on the mobility of our upper back. This is a nice series if you find yourself in that pattern of acute episodes of low back pain spaced out by periods where, oh, you feel pretty good, but maybe still a little bit vulnerable in the low back. If you've had that pattern through your life, which many of us have, this is a nice series to start with. And you do what you can, you do, at your own level, but I'm going to try to get you to identify, what you might be looking for, from your body when you're doing other activities in your life. So maybe you're, lifting weights and you're looking, to keep what you learn here on the mat and transfer it into your weight routine or your cardio or just your, daily activities around your house. So you will want to have a mini ball for this. If you don't have a ball to put under the pelvis, you can do it without paying attention to where you feel, the pressure of the back of your pelvis on the mat, but the ball makes it more fun, and it really gives you that feedback about where, how still you're staying in your pelvis and your low back while you do, this one will be movement with the legs. So placing the ball, you want it to be above your tailbone, but below your low back. So it's not at the small of your back, falling over the ball that way. It's not too far under you, allowing the low back to be round. It's really, you can feel like you can trust the weight of your pelvis on that ball. It's nice and centered. Your pubic bone will be a tiny bit higher than your hip pointers, which are in line with your ribs. Right? Some of us get grippy in our low back with, chronic low back pain, and we thrust our ribs forward, and then we sit here and we say, oh, I'm not even using my abs. No, you're using all your back muscles, which your back will eventually complain about. So try to be in a position where, those points line up, ribs, hip pointers, and pubic bone. And you might already feel a little bit of activity, very light in your deep core. I'm going to do the series with my elbows bent, but if you're just starting, you can have the hands at your sides to give you a little bit more base of support. Or if you're feeling like, oh, yeah, we've been doing this a while, we want a challenge, then you can have the arms off the mat, right? For no base of support. But have the feet close together and the knees close together, so a narrow base of support in your legs. And your breath is going to help you to improve the timing of your core. So you have a nice breath in, and you're relaxed. You're breathing in, you're trying to get expansion in your low ribs, like nice widening, deep in your rib cage. You're not breathing all into your belly, right? You're not losing the form that you just established on the ball. You're not changing your spine alignment. Just a nice breath in. And on your out breath, you're thinking of, I like the cue of stopping your pee, getting that pelvic floor activity, but you can also think about just tightening lightly between your hip pointers. Maybe feeling like the hip pointers narrow a little bit or pull together, or that low belly just draws back like the tiniest bit away from your leggings or your shorts or whatever you're wearing. Right? Whatever works for you, so that as you bring that first leg off the mat, right? There's no movement on that ball. There's no movement in the pelvis. And we're going to alternate legs. So I'm breathing in to lower my leg. And then before I take the weight of this right leg off the mat, I've thought of my core and I lift it up. Because you're looking for a pure movement of the hip here, as well as functional strength, not over tightening in the abdominals, but just enough activity in your abdominals that it's controlling your low back and pelvis. There's no movement. You're working to eliminate those little micro movements on the ball. So if you're happy here, right, then you can move into what we call leg changes. So one leg is up, and you're going to bring, well, we won't do them, yeah, we'll do it at the same time. Let's do a little repeater first. Have the right leg up in your tabletop or your chair position here, and just as a further warm up, bring that left leg up to meet the right, and then lower it back down. So just a little repeater, maybe 3 times with the left leg, where you make sure that as you bring that leg up, the abdominals stay nice and flat, right? That ball is staying still. You're not getting, that sort of movement, right? That actually hurt. Lower the right leg. Bring the left leg up to tabletop. Take a nice breath in before you take the weight of the right leg up to tabletop. Now make sure you've thought of that pelvic floor lift, or you've engaged the deep core with whatever sort of mental cue you need, and bring the right leg up and lower it back down. So a little repeater with the right leg. The low ribs are still held back, right? The abdominals are flat, not bulging, but not also overworking, because you're trying to feel like this strength comes from very low, like above your pubic bone. And deep, deep in the belly, it's not about bracing with your obliques and diaphragm and upper abs, okay? Then you can move into what we call leg changes. So one leg is up in tabletop already, pelvis is in neutral, the ball is nice and still. As you exhale, you use your core and you switch. And you switch. And you switch. And here, you can switch in slow motion, right? If you need to evaluate whether that ball is staying still, right? Sometimes if we do it fast, we're like, oh yeah, I got this. And maybe you do, right? If you do, then yes, you can speed it up. You can do it nice and quickly and more at your real life pace. But if you're doubting, or if you're feeling a little wobble in the ball, slow it down. Where do you really need to think about the timing of your deep abdominal muscles, or your pelvic floor, or your out breath, whatever helps you to stabilize, right? Where do you need to think about that a little more, right? Let's do 3 more, 2 more, 1 more. Boom. Both legs up to tabletop. If you need a little hug in of the knees, because sometimes we work like quite hard in the hip flexors for this, you can do that. And I've allowed my back to come out of neutral just to give it a little break. It feels good, maybe for you too. Come back though to neutral on the ball. If you need to lower the legs to sort of verify that, find your space again, find your position. Then bring both legs back to tabletop. The arm option, remember, you have them either at your side for more stability, bent elbows for a little less, or arms off the mat for maximum challenge. And here we're going to straighten one leg. So the left leg stays in the chair position or the tabletop position, right leg straightens, abdominals are strong and drawn in, you lower the leg, what you can control, and you bring it back up and in. And then same thing here, straightening, lowering what you can control. If you want a hand on the abdominals here, it's sort of nice because sometimes we do overdo it in this position, right? We start to lower the leg beyond what the abdominals can control, and we see the abdominals start to, bulge towards the ceiling, or the low back changes its position. So as long as you have that lovely flat abdomen, even if you don't think it's flat, stop judging yourself. Then you can be pretty sure that you are working in a relatively safe position and at a safe level for your low back. Right? Let's do 1 more with each leg. Gorgeous. Perfect. And pausing there. If you need to take a break, just let the hips relax. We're going to try to keep the tailbone down on the ball, maintain that pelvis neutral, and we're going to straighten both legs for that length in the back of our hamstrings. Lower it down. Straighten both legs for the length in the back of the hamstrings and lower it down. And if you find that as you get your straight legs, it's not possible to keep your low back still, and you end up lifting the tailbone or allowing that low back to sag down towards the mat, then you might limit how far you straighten the knees at first. If your hamstrings or the back fascia of your body, sciatic area is tight, maybe that's all you get to, but it's a lot of work to stabilize, then that's fine, right? You're still getting all the You're getting the essence of the exercise, you're achieving what you want to achieve. And as you practice, you might find that, oh yes, we're getting some length in the hamstrings now. We can straighten the legs all the way, right? Good. We're going to leave the legs straight here or at a position as straight as you can be while you still keep that pelvis in neutral. And we're going to open both legs out to the side into a V, and then we're going to close it back up. I like to breathe in to open, and I use my exhale to zip it back up. And you're looking to stay still on the ball, right? It's quite hard if you raise the arms off, right? You need to know that you're moving the hips symmetrically. You need to know that you're strong in the core in that motion. Awesome. Good. Make this one your last one. Bend both knees. You can hug the right knee in towards your chest and just stretch the left leg out. After working the hip flexors like that, it is really nice to lengthen there. And it's also nice to get the other hip, into a fully bent position. And just breathe in and feel good about that. Switching sides or holding it longer if you want. It's your workout. That feels lovely. Good. And then bend both knees. You're going to get the ball out from underneath the pelvis. After that sort of work, I do love to do a little imprint and release. So the arms just at your sides. The feet can be a little wider now. They don't have to touch. And you're in your neutral pelvis to start. You've got a little space behind your low back in the mat. And you take your breath in there. And as you breathe out, you're just very, very gently allowing the low spine to settle down towards the mat, right? And I actually think you probably can't see any movement as I do this, right? Like it's really subtle. I'll move my arms, but there's no tension really in the abdominals. The outer abs should be pretty relaxed. You're not squeezing the bum muscles. You're not pressing harder through the feet. It's, you're imagining it's like gravity is just sinking the low back down towards the mat. And then almost like your breath in is what's helping you come back to neutral, right? There's a very slight rock of the pelvis, but it's not a big pelvic tilt. Your goal is not to get your back as flat as possible, although you might be able to if you have the flexibility. Your goal is to gently flatten, while you keep everything from your, low ribs or nipple line up nice and still. So if I'm doing this and I'm feeling the head go, like, I don't know, flat and then pulling back, if your head's doing this, then either there's a lack of, like sort of control down here, or you have stiffness in your above your low back that is not allowing the rest of your spine to adapt to that very subtle movement that you're asking the low back to do, right? So nice and still with the head, that's your goal. You might not achieve it right away, but it's what you're working towards, right? Gently flat with the low back and back to neutral. Good. And I'd like to, if you're comfortable, if you're in an acute flare, you probably weren't doing that series anyway, but if you're feeling a little bit vulnerable, then you can limit your movement on this, but we're going to move into pelvic curl and hip roll, like a little bridge. So nice breath in neutral, exhale to gently flatten, squeeze the bum, and then I want you to peel up, and I want it to be the tailbone first, then the back of the pelvis, then the lowest part of the spine. And if you have any pain, you stop there, or maybe you continue to peel up. At the end, knees, hips, and shoulders are in a nice straight line. And then peeling back down one bone of the back at a time. And this is just about mobility of the spine, right? It's gentle. It's not really a strengthening exercise, although you are getting some strength. But it's about feeling, like, do you feel there's an area where you come up as a block And can you work to smooth that area out on your own? It might not be something you can do. Maybe you need some, treatment. But even if you're getting some treatment, that can help you keep the improvements, between. Yeah, peel down, right? And as you get better, you can try to do it with a little speed and see if you can keep that smoothness. And just remember, you never have to push through pain with this one. Like if there's a point that says, I don't like that, then you stop. You do a little mini one. Yeah, there we go. Beautiful. Peel it down. And there we go. You're done. I'll see you for the next series or the next class. Thank you.